I'm Sanuki. I'm gonna explain about social stratification based on a movie that I watched, which is Hidden Figures, which was filmed in 2016. This is a true story that happened in 1960s in America, and the story is about three African American women named Mary Jackson, Dorothy Wong, and Katherine Johnson. They worked as computers in NASA. Computers in NASA basically means you are there to calculate very complex mathematics that needs to run space programs. Back then, they didn't have big computers to do these calculations, though they had people who do these by hands, and these three women was in a group which did these calculations. Before I go into the movie and explain what are the social stratifications I saw in the movie, I would like to explain what is social stratification. It is basically a socio-economic system that divides members in a society into ranking from high to low based on their power, wealth, and prestige. The first social stratification I identified in this movie is racial stratification. These three African American women face so much racial discrimination in their workplace, which is NASA, which is a really prestige institute in America, but they were discriminated in this place. One of the main things that showed the discrimination is the separated places for black people and white people. For black people, they had bathrooms, dining rooms, and working areas separately. And for white people, they had bathrooms, dining rooms, and everything separately. One of the main things that highlighted these separate areas were the label colored. They had the label colored on every separate bathroom that black people were supposed to use, but the places white people used didn't have these labels. It was like a normal place, but for black people they mentioned colored word in everything they used. One of the main characters in the movie, Catherine, when she got a temporary position at NASA space program, she had to go to this white building where white people worked, and they didn't have bathrooms for her to use or dining rooms for her to use, so she had to go from there, running miles away, to the place she worked before to just to go to bathrooms and dining rooms. This happened mainly because for the discrimination that happened during the time in 1960s for black people. They were not supposed to use the same things as white people. White people were treated as the highest people in the society and black were treated as low, so they were not supposed to use the same things as white people. Another thing I noticed in the movie is the gender stratification. Institutes like NASA and other big companies were labeled as male dominated areas, so even though these three women were like very educated, intelligent, they were not treated the same. And one of the things I noticed in the movie is Catherine, who got a temporary position at NASA space program. When she was working, she wanted to join these meetings to learn more about what's happening and what is changing, but she was not allowed to because she's a woman, and women are not supposed to attend these meetings with males. Another example I can give from the movie is when Mary Jackson was given a permanent position at the engineering field. She wanted to become an engineer. She was not an engineer, but she had the qualifications. But they told her she can't be an engineer at the NASA space program because she is supposed to get another certification from another school. But the issue was she was not supposed to attend these classes, or she actually can't attend these classes because these classes are only for white men, which means they were not even from white women because this was gender discrimination, and they were supposed to be male dominated fields, so women can't attend these classes, especially black women. The next main thing I noticed in this movie is the social classes. Not just black women, even black men were not treated equally as white people. These black people were supposed to earn lower wage compared to the white people. They were not equal because they were born into this social class black. They were black Americans. In an article I read from Nkrumah, the author explained in this movie and in that time period, these three women were not paid well, and they were not even paid equally as the white women who worked as computers in NASA. But these three women were more educated and had more knowledge than the white male and female worked in NASA. But they were not paid equally, not even closer to that amount. They were paid very low income. They were not even paid for the hours they worked extra. That all because they were born into this social class labeled as African Americans. The next thing I saw in this movie is the economic mobility. These people were not born into families that were high income because they were not paid equally as the white people, even though they were very talented, educated. One of those points were when Dorothy Vaughan, She worked as a supervisor without the pay or without the position because the previous supervisor left, but they didn't find another supervisor or give her the position for a long time. But she was really smart, she was really educated, talented. She showed her skills with IBM computers, and she was the only person who was able to program these machines, and none of the male workers at NASA was able to do it. So they promoted her to the supervisor role, and she became the first African American supervisor at NASA. All the other two women were also able to climb up the ladder. So, because of their talent and education and their courage that they had to break these norms, they were able to go up the economic ladder. They were able to go upwards. The last point I would like to make about the social stratification I saw in the movie was the very last point, which is breaking the barriers and challenging the social stratification. From an article written by Pinontan and some other authors, these three black American women were able to break the glass ceiling and they had the feminist movement within themselves. I saw these parts in the movie when Catherine was assigned to the space program work as a temporary worker. She was the only female, not just black, she was the only female in this space program who had the geometrical analytic skills. So, even though it was a male dominated area, she was able to show her skills. They were not able to do this space program without her. And the last example I would like to give is when Mary wanted to become an engineer at NASA, she wanted to go to this school which were only made for white men. So she went to court, she petitioned, she fought for it, and she got the permission to be the first African American woman to go to this all white male school and get her engineering qualifications done and become an engineer at NASA.